I'm gonna be honest, as far as platformers go, Celeste isn't very fun. Sure, the game's enjoyable, but after you reach the summit, there isn't much to do. There's B and C side levels, but the average Joe will find these much harder than the regular game, and so people end up giving up on Celeste. But beyond the scope of this game lies a hidden gem, unbeknownst to the entire world. Like many other games, Celeste supports mods. These can do anything from turning your character into a little goober to adding new mechanics and maps. But of all the mods out there, there's one that completely revolutionizes Celeste. In fact, I would make the argument that it's the perfect continuation to the game. I'm of course talking about Celeste Strawberry Jam. Bolstering over 116 brand new maps, over 1,500 playable rooms, 289 delicious strawberries, and upwards of 9 hours of absolutely banger and copyright-free music that I've been taking advantage of for months. But what makes this mod stand out from all the others out there isn't its beautiful and enticing levels, but rather how it takes the original game's mechanics and builds upon them rather than replacing them, crafting something familiar yet fresh for players to enjoy regardless of their skill set. Like many other platformers, Celeste's gameplay is incredibly simple. Its movement boils down to 3 inputs: the jump, the climb, and the dash. The first two are fairly self-explanatory. Jumping gives Madeline a vertical boost, and climbing lets her scale walls. The game also uses a stamina system, which decreases at varying rates depending on what Madeline is doing. Holding onto a ledge and staying still will drain your stamina much slower than climbing up, and even slower than jumping up the wall. The third input, the dash, is certainly the most iconic feature of the game. Madeline can dash in one of 8 directions, but she can only do so once before having to touch the ground. This is elegantly represented by her hair turning blue when she is out of dashes. It's one of the most defining parts of how the game plays, especially in later levels like Core, where you have to be careful managing your dashes, as they wouldn't refill upon touching the ground. But if you've ever watched professional Celeste gameplay, you know that there's more to the game than just these 3 inputs. And that's where our secret ingredient comes into play: momentum. Momentum is the glue that holds Celeste's game together. It spices up the bland, all-in-the-head gameplay into something that either makes you smash your keyboard when you're stuck on a room for all of eternity, or soil your pants when you finally pull off that sick trick. It all comes down to the timing and order of your inputs. For example, if you were to dash down diagonally and jump before the dash ends, you'd perform a hyper dash, giving you much more distance than a regular dash and jump. But if you were to dash downwards diagonally with a reasonable pre-existing velocity, you'd perform an ultra dash, increasing your speed by 20%. And if you manage to chain ultras, you could reach speeds so high that the game can't even keep up with your position. And when you take into account the countless environmental mechanics the game throws at you throughout your journey, and combine them with this momentum-based moveset, you're presented with one of the most enjoyable platformers ever created. And yet, Celeste doesn't really tell you about these opportunities. In fact, one of the simplest mechanics in the game, the hyper dash, is taught to you on literally the last level of the game. And even there, you only use it about like 6 times. And that's where Strawberry Jam comes in. Some people will reach the summit and call it a day, but for many, they'll feel dissatisfied. Celeste is such a brilliantly designed moveset, and beating the game will leave you hungry for more. And Celeste does offer many more levels in the form of B and C sides, which both challenge your skills and knowledge of the mechanics of the game, but that's the problem. They're harder. Not everyone is some platformer genius who won't struggle with levels like Farewell, and Strawberry Jam solves this. Every level and mechanic in this mod is thoughtfully crafted, and the graphics are breathtaking. There's even a gym where you can practice almost any tech in the game, so not only does it provide players fun maps to play at various difficulties, but it also has the resources necessary to hone your skills to tackle some of those harder maps. And that's the beauty of this mod. It's designed so any player can enjoy what it has to offer, regardless of their mastery of the game, which turns it into the perfect continuation of Vanilla Celeste. If you just beat Summit and took your first dose of estrogen, the beginner lobby is great for you. And if you are a day 1 Tech Master sweat, you'll find yourself at home in the Grandmaster lobby. Every lobby features a beautifully crafted, custom-made landscape, bolstering around 20 unique levels, which are categorized into 3 sub-difficulties: easy greens, medium yellows, and hard reds. Very creative, I know. For reference, Farewell, the hardest level in Vanilla Celeste, is considered an intermediate red, with some rooms barely reaching advanced green. Every lobby in Strawberry Jam also offers a locked level called a hard side, If you beat every other level in the difficulty, you unlock the hard side, which reflects the theme of the lobby. Every room in the hard side acts as a mini version of a level you've played before, requiring you to extensively understand the mechanics of every single one of them. I find it particularly impressive how the map makers managed to blend all of these visually different levels together into one grandiose gauntlet, with very smooth transitions between art styles. Kudos to them. It's also notable to mention that hard sides are slightly more difficult than their regular level counterparts. So as you play through the beginner hard side, for instance, you move on from yellow and red beginners to green intermediates. This makes it that much smoother for a player to move between difficulties and transition to the next lobby. That is, until you reach the Grandmaster difficulty. To say it bluntly, the Grandmaster levels are insane. For starters, there's a fourth sub-difficulty of levels more difficult than red, called Cracked. These offer a challenge beyond Grandmaster. Of the 4 cracked maps, 2 are actually on the Celeste hard list, which is a catalog of the hardest levels ever created by Celeste's modding community. Those 2 levels are the Solar Express and Pinball Purgatory. Both of these can prove to be extremely challenging depending on what skill sets you struggle with. The Solar Express is just Theotech galore, and if you have a computer that doesn't support you pressing more than 4 keys at the same time, you're screwed. Pinball Purgatory is a lot more centered on precision, since it abuses the crap out of the bumper mechanic. The problem is that these bumpers are more inconsistent than my upload schedule, so it really feels a lot more luck than skill sometimes. Personally, I struggled a lot with both of these maps, but they were nothing compared to the Grandmaster hard side, Passionfruit Pantheon. Easily earning its place on the hard list as well, Strawberry Jam's Grandmaster Hardside is the final level of the mod, and as such, it's one of the most difficult yet breathtaking experiences I've ever had in gaming. I know that because it's the very last level of the entire mod, they had to pull all the stops with this one, but even so, the quality still blew me away. As you pass room after room, the music ramps up, but so does the difficulty. Thankfully, since you've beaten every Grandmaster level before getting here, they're all still doable. Every flag you clear feels like an accomplishment on its own, offering a challenge that feels familiar but is still fresh at the same time. The blend of fast-paced gameplay that offers next to no sight reading, and precision platforming that meticulously destroys your fingers ensures that every room has something unique to offer beyond their stunning aesthetics. The map designers carefully crafted every move in this level to provide a challenge, yet rarely feel repetitive or bland. Oddly enough, playing the Grandmaster hard side offers a completely different experience than playing through all the Grandmaster levels. Most maps in Strawberry Jam offer new mechanics for you to learn, and as such, they typically open the level with somewhat of a tutorial, giving the player time to learn the mechanic before the difficulty kicks in. This isn't the case for hard sides, however, since there's an expectation that you've already mastered the tech by beating the respective level. This might not be too noticeable in lower difficulties, but the Grandmaster hard side really makes it show. The level's gradual buildup of music as you pass one flag after another really makes you feel like the stakes are high, especially after you beat the 4th flag. The beat hits you so hard, and only then do you truly realize this is the Grandmaster hard side. Hundreds, if not thousands of hours were poured into getting this far, and now your journey's nearing its end. As you take the elevator up to the final flag, the music crescendos. And yet, you're faced with nothing but silence. You walk along the hallway, finally reaching the last room. The darkness cloaks you, as you hear nothing but a faint set of drums. Shattersong. The name finally hits you, the only level you haven't crossed off the list. One of the most difficult and memorable levels, and yet it somehow slipped your mind. You quickly learn the rhythm and time your movements to the beat with ease. You pass the second segment with little difficulty. And so, you've reached the end. You're launched up in the sky, ready to receive your reward, but for some reason you feel almost dissatisfied. Why was that last flag so easy? It wasn't even close to some of the other rooms. You continue to ascend higher and higher with no end in sight, but suddenly, the music fades back in. An eerie tone echoes through the Pantheon. Your screen narrows as you realize that wasn't flag 1. That was just the transition. The final flag of Passionfruit Pantheon is also the final room of the entire mod. It's the ultimate send-off. It's based around the level Shatter Song, an extremely atmospheric and eerie Grandmaster level which requires you to time your movements to the music as all the platforms phase in and out to a rhythm. In the case of Flag 1, this follows a 3-5 polyrhythm. For those of you watching who aren't big into music, a polyrhythm is essentially two rhythms superimposed on one another. A 3-5 polyrhythm looks something like this. So you have to time your movements to not one, but two rhythms at the same time, since you have two separate sets of cassette blocks phasing in and out at different rhythms. Also, those rhythms are the two set of cassette blocks in the transition, by the way. And to make matters worse, there's also these rune fields you may have noticed. These apply certain debuffs to Madeline while she's inside them. The red arrow disables her ability to dash, the blue triangle prevents dash refills when touching the ground, and the yellow square disables all forms of stamina refill. There's also other runes, which basically apply multiple of these debuffs at once. I swear, figuring out how to do this room was harder than routing planes in an air traffic control tower. But with that nightmare aside, here's the final room of Strawberry Jam. The music sync in this level is something else. Traveling up the spire, collecting the hearts of every heart side before, the final crescendo, it all blew me away. After beating the final room and ascending to the heavens, you're only left with the victory walk up to the heart, and upon collecting it, the word apotheosis is displayed on screen, meaning the elevation of a person to the rank of a god. It's quite fitting really, as the mod is essentially calling you a god at the game. But your journey ends here only if you choose so. You can still revisit the levels and beat them all deathless, awarding you silver strawberries. And for the especially masochistic, the golden strawberry awaits anyone who beats the heart side without dying. I know there's so many more difficult and fantastic mods out there, but I want to end this on a high note, and this is as high as it gets. If you haven't given Celeste a try yet, please do. It isn't some AAA game slop that'll set you back $70. And if you have beaten the game, or maybe you abandoned it, give it another shot. Try to play with some of the many mods, or develop your own if that's your kind of thing. No matter who you are or how good at video games you might be, Celeste has something for everyone to enjoy, and Strawberry Jam takes that to another level. As always, thanks for watching and remember to subscribe. Also, I recently opened up a Discord so you can join that in the description if that's your kind of thing. I'll catch you in the next one.